difference, one cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time, making a difference, one cup at a time. Tea time, yeah. Tea time, time.
Well, good afternoon and welcome back to Tea Time. We are here for the second Tea Time of November 2nd. That's right, we are already in November. And I have the incredible writer, director, producer, actress, American playwright, storyteller, speaker, you name it all. I have it all. DeeDee Banks Johnson is in the house, and we're going to talk about her personal journey. And as you've seen in the little intro video, we're going to do God's plan. We're going to share how she got to where she is today. So there's going to be a little, maybe some trigger warning. So Miss Liz will have her trigger warning up, but I want everyone to go grab your tea, grab your coffee, grab a glass of wine, whatever you would like to have, and share this Tea Time out. Go to the YouTube channel, give it a quick subscribe if you haven't already. Ring that little bell so you're notified when all these incredible Tea Times go up. And let's just make a difference together, because that's what we do with Tea Time, is we make a difference. So let's get the disclaimer, and I'm going to read DeeDee's full bio, because this woman has an incredible bio, and I feel that it needs to be fully read. And while you're waiting, let's just keep sharing this Tea Time out to all your friends and loved ones out there, and whoever it may resonate with. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz myself is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith. However, it may bring forward dialogues and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participants are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion forums only to offer and inspire awareness and connection, and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, through my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in today's show in any aspect, I myself, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that the show is not made for you at this time, I respect those wishes and will see you at a later show at a later date and time. And again, all Tea Time shows are done on Thursday, 10, 3, and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And don't forget, the time has switched for some countries, and for Canada, it is switching on Sunday. So the time is going back 1 hour. We fall back. So make sure to check that out to stay tuned to Miss Liz's time slots. If you see Tea Time on a Monday or Tuesday, it's a rescheduled Tea Time, or it's a special guest or a special appearance coming on. So now I want to give you a little bit on who DeeDee is. Well, I've already told you that she's a writer, director, producer, all of that good stuff, but I want to get more deeper into who she is. So DeeDee Banks Johnson is an American playwright, director, producer, storyteller, and actress, as well as a motivational speaker. In 2022, she created her alter ego Eve and began to develop biblical stories and named it From Eve's Perspective. DeeDee used TikTok and Instagram as one of her platforms. In March and May of 2023, she was offered the opportunity to minister in her local church at a women's brunch and a Mother's Day tribute. In 2015, DeeDee wrote and directed, produced, and acted in her first play, Pity Party. Johnson wrote the sequel to Pity Party, entitled Don't Pity My Party, for her second stage play in 2016. For her work in Pity Party, Johnson was able to give back to the community by creating a fine arts summers program and an active board member of East Point Promise Prevention, Coloration, and the drug-free community. In 2018, while working as a director and producer, the middle school students were able to create and write their own play, The Other Side of Me, which was written by the students and performed the play at the college campus. In 2019, Johnson as assigned as an instructor at local middle high school to teach fine arts and character development. Later that summer, DeeDee was an instructor for a summer enrichment camp for another middle high school fine arts drama class, in which a video was created that was then. This is now edited and written by students and directed by Johnson. DeeDee grew up in Gary, Indiana, with wonderful parents. Sarah, a stay-at-home mother, and her father, Earl Banks, worked in the steel mill industry. They raised 10 children successfully. Oh, she had a big family. She majored in English and liberal arts. Johnson was known as the class clown, playing tricks on teachers. She thought she was through with school, but God had a different plan. Soon after giving her life to the Lord in 1988, she began to teach middle high school youth Sunday school. She knew that that was part of her assignment and felt that God had a sense of humor. She has been teaching and mentoring young and women for 32 years. Johnson and her husband Reggie have dated in high school, and after 39 years, they reunited at a class reunion picnic in August of 2011 and were married in June 2012. Together, she has 6 children and 7 grandchildren and her Shih Tzu puppy Zoe. Her desire and one of her many dreams is to make her play Pity Party into a movie and host a TV variety show that love story of she and Reggie reuniting would one day to be on the big screen. So let me get DeeDee in here. Amazing, amazing bio, amazing accomplishments. But she had to get to those accomplishments. So we're going to learn about that. So let me get DeeDee in here. Welcome, DeeDee.
Hi.
It is an honor to have you here. Oh, I don't have any voice. What happened to your voice?
Hold on.
Oh, I got you.
You got me?
I got you.
All
So,
right.
so DeeDee, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing me in.
An incredible, incredible bio, but you had to get to that bio, right? It was a lot of hard work. So I'm going to start off how I start off all my shows. Who was
Okay.
DeeDee as a little girl and who is DeeDee now?
DeeDee, as a little girl, was she's kind of the same person. She was a funny little girl. She always wanted to make people laugh. And she, as in high school, I would do pranks on teachers, put tacks in their chairs, and get in trouble while the other kids laugh. But now I just love to make people laugh, and I love being letting them know that God is behind all of this. If it wasn't for Him, I would not be here. I'd probably be either in an institution, in my grave, or I don't have a clue. But without Him, I know I would not be here, Liz. Yes.
So DeeDee, as a little girl, do you see yourself as a grown woman with that inner child rushing for life and pushing for life, having that encouragement and that goal driven attitude as your childhood? Like, was that little girl in you pushing you to be who you are today?
Yes, that little girl, she had a lot of fears. And she went through a lot. She went through some things. And that little girl taught this person how to persevere. to continue no matter what. I don't know what I get now. I know it's not, I do. It was God using me to go through this. And I remember my ex mother-in-law used to say that, you're going through things not for you, but for someone else. And I just could not get that. But now I understand that me as a little girl, some of the trials and tribulations that I went through as a little girl, I was like, why am I going through this as a little kid? But had I not, I wouldn't be the woman who I am today, who are now pushing other young women and women my age and even older and then some younger to just go through, no matter what you're going through right now, it's not going to stay the same because God knows our future. He knows our destiny and we don't. So we just got to trust him. And that's one of the hardest things to do, Liz. Oh my God, is to trust somebody you cannot see. But he has done it for me, oh my God, thousands of times. And so I have no choice but not to trust him.
Well, I like that you say God's using me because I say that all the time to my children too. Mommy had to go through what she had to in order to be that voice for somebody else out there. And my Oma told me years ago, Miss Liz, spill the tea. And I never understood what she meant because I was just a little kid. But as I got older, I realized that she was serving me a life tea. And that's how we have to serve, is we have to serve our stories. Sometimes we go through these stories, we go through hardships, and we go down wrong roads and paths for a reason, for in the future that we might not understand at the moment, right? When we're all in that hardship, we're like, oh, like, does this ever get easy? Like, oh, does it ever stop? And then years later, you realize, oh, okay, this is why we did this.
That's true.
So, DeeDee, I want to get into your story. You shared a little bit in the back of stage before we went live. I want to get into the deep and the heavy story of where you were before and how you got to where you are today. So, if you don't mind sharing that a little bit with everyone.
As I said to you before, Liz, I started way back. Like you said, my mom, it was a large family, and we lacked for nothing. We didn't have a lot, but we didn't feel like we was poor. We just, that's what we were. But I never shall forget my journey. I was a little girl, and then things happened, and so I was trying to stifle this feeling. And so I shall never forget a friend of ours. My friend and I, we were sitting on her porch. It was cold. It was in the winter, girl. We sitting on the porch, and it was screen porch, and there was snow all around us. And we out there, we had stolen a beer out of the refrigerator, and so I stole one of my dad's cigarettes, cool cigarettes, and we're on the porch drinking a beer and smoking a cigarette. And so we saw a friend of ours, our neighbor, and we asked, he said, how you doing? I'm not gonna mention his name, he's going on in. So he says, we asked him, what is he doing? And so he said, I'm getting ready. I said, we were like, what was that? He had a joint in his hand. We didn't know what it was. And we're like, give us that. He said, no, you roll your own. I said, we don't know what we're doing. So he showed us what to do. So we fumbling, and it's cold. So finally we got this little joint together. So we walked down the street. We were like at the beginning of the block, and it's cold, Liz, and there's snow all on the ground. So we walked down the street and we turned to the right and we go walk up the alley. Back then we had alleys, and there was snow and ice everywhere. So we started smoking this joint. We was like, how do you do it? And he told us. So we did all of that. And Liz, so by the time we finished it, so we buried the little end of it. We called it roaches back then. We buried the little butt in the snow.
The little bunts.
We buried it in the snow. Like, we hope nobody found it. Like they was going to figure it out it was ours, So we walked back out, and by the time we got to the end of the alley, Liz, I was lit. I was like, oh, I like this. Because I was feeling like, oh, I could really be myself. So we walked back down the street to the house, and it was time to go in, and I was giggling and giggling. And my friend told me, she says, girl, you know your daddy in the house. And they used to call him Big Earl. So she said, Big Earl in there. And immediately I got sober. I was like, okay, we got to get girl. So I was like, okay, I got this. So she walked me up to my room, and by that time I was still just giggling. She's like, you better calm down. So I went to sleep. But Liz, that triggered me, that joint, it triggered me to want something different. And that was a long road. And from that joint, it took me to smoking weed. Then I went to pills. And the pills, they had the downer pills, but I didn't like that because I passed out on my graduation night.
Oh.
We had some weed. I passed out. And I didn't remember even talking to a friend of ours that called from Detroit. And he said that I passed out. And so I said, I don't like that. So I wanted something to make me talk. So then we went to the speed thing. And they would see us at school, Liz, and we dropped this little pill and we was all over the place. And they were like, here they come, here they come. They are high on that stuff. And it's on that speed. So one of my teachers, an English teacher, I was high one day and she told me, and she asked me to write a story about this picture. And after I finished that picture and turned in the finished my paper and turned in the paper and looking at the picture, she told me, she says, they called me Niecy back then. She says, Niecy, she says, I don't know where this is taking you, but you got a heck of imagination. She said, you need to use that. So I was like, okay, cool. So I didn't think anything else about it. And then I just began I couldn't sleep off this speed. So I would go in my closet in my room and shove clothes up under the door and steal my dad's cigarettes and smoke and write.
In the closet.
In the closet. And I was like, oh my God. And I couldn't sleep. So when I finished finally calming down and crashing, then I'll go lay in the bed and it'd be time to get them to go to school. But anyway, I started that road with the speed, and then from there it led me to cocaine.
Oh,
yeah, and moved from Gary, Indiana. No, I didn't know the Jackson 5. Everybody said, "Did you know the Jackson 5?" No, I didn't know the Jackson 5 because they were from Gary. So I went to California, and in California I met this guy, and I didn't date him, but that was the first time I ever smoked crack. And when I took that one hit, and I want to tell anybody who's out there struggling with crack, cocaine, or any drug, the first hit is the hook. Because when I hit that pipe, it took my breath, but then it took me to a euphoria place that you can only get off the first high when you're sober. And that's the detriment of it, because people are trying to chase that first high and you'll never get it again until you're sober. But the bad part about it is that you're trying to get it while you're high, but you won't. So it's like it's like a dog chasing his tail. You can't get it. You just can't until you get sober, and you don't have that in you to get sober. So it was a hard year, 7 years that I journeyed this, but I was a functional crackhead. I didn't steal nothing. I would go to work, and it was like, I just never lost my self because I had a daughter also. And then I didn't want her to see me go through that. So after that, I left California and went back to Gary, and I realized I can't stay here. So I moved to San Antonio and still dabbling in that. And then finally I got so depressed, Liz, that I wanted to take my life. So I called a friend of mine. I'll never forget, her name is Sharon Dixon. Wherever you are, Sharon, if you hear me, please, I've been trying to find you. But she told me to try Jesus. And at that time, we used to tease people who said they tried Jesus. We were like, oh, they tripping, because this one friend of ours, he was like, we're like, Jumbo, you got to join. He's like, no, I got Jesus. We're like, oh, no, you can keep that. So when she told me to try Jesus this time, I was at the end of myself, Liz. I was like, I don't know who else to try. I got to try this. I said, okay, what do you do? So she told me go to church, blah, blah, blah. And I went. And long story short, fast forward, I met a guy who was my kid's father. And his dad was a pastor, his mom was a missionary. And Liz, I was like, I do not want to be bothered no preacher's son. I didn't even want to go to church. I was like, this ain't the way for me. So, Liz, I met this man and he was saying what he didn't do. And I was like, okay. So I was like, well, maybe my mom said, maybe you need to do something different. And I was like, yeah, because I felt like my life was leaving me, and it was. So we got married, and I was looking for a joint. I was like, I need a joint, and I had moved. I had taken my sister to Dallas, and she was living in the hood, straight hood, Liz. I can hear drug transactions going on through the wall. And I was like, are you gonna stay here? She's like, yeah, I got man, it's me and God. I'm like, girl, is that enough right up in here? It was bad. And so I told her, I says, I tell you what, if you're gonna live here, then I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna get saved. And I drove to Dallas by myself to be with her. And then I drove back, and all the way home, God was dealing with me and I didn't understand what it was. So when I got back to San Antonio, I said, okay, one more time before I go get saved. So I'm looking, it was a Friday, and I'm looking and I'm like, I couldn't find a joint anywhere, Liz. Nobody had anything. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess not. So, and Stevie Wonder was coming to town. I'm like, nah, I gotta get high right before, get high, go see Stevie, because I love Stevie. Still haven't seen Stevie Wonder concert. Still haven't. So God blocked that. But anyway, I was like, okay. So I went to church, Liz, and I was all cute, thought I was cute, had my hair and had my hat on, and I was matching from head to toe. And it was a little bitty church, and it was in the choir stand with the men. They were having Sunday school, and the women was having Sunday school on the pews. And so my mother-in-law, she was teaching, and I was like, okay. And I was sitting there, I was cool. And all of a sudden, I started feeling weird. I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And I felt like, and I kept looking at the back door, and I was like, what? And I'm like, I know I ain't high because I ain't had nothing. So I kept having this little conversation with myself, and I was like, God, what are you doing? I don't know what's going on. My mother-in-law, she was teaching. She says, like, don't you just sometimes feel like you act one way this way, and then you act another way around other people, and you're wearing all these different hats? And I had on a little hat, and I'm like, yeah. And so she says, sometimes, and by this time, it was like I was having a conversation with the devil and the little angel on my shoulders. And the devil was saying, girl, you all right? And the angel was like, nope, today, DeeDee, give your life to Christ. And I was like, oh God, what are you talking about? And I'm looking at her, and I'm looking at the door, and I'm listening to these two voices, and I'm realizing, I'm really tripping. I done had something that I is kicking. So Liz, it was really scary, but this voice kept telling me, give your life to God, give your life. And I was like, oh my God. And the devil said, girl, you got to go see Stevie. No, it's okay. You got one more time. And all of a sudden, my mother-in-law, she says, don't you just get sick of yourself? And Liz, that was my trigger. She said, you get sick of yourself. And I was like, I'm sick of myself. Liz, I don't remember anything, but all I knew is when God finished, my hat was on one side of the church. My shoes was flat. I was sitting flat on my behind. And I was saying, thank you, Jesus. And that day, March 27, 1988, I gave my life to Jesus. And I've been clean since.
And sometimes that's what we need, right, DeeDee? Is we need that awakening, and it is like that little devil and the little angel telling us, like, no, don't listen to that one. Then you could just slide out that door and get out of here and especially when you're in church, you hear these two voices all the time.
Yes.
Don't listen to the sermon and hush hush, and you're like, we got better things to do. Your mind gets all like, and then you're like, what's going on in church today? Like, what am I missing? Because sometimes it comes back and it kind of pushes. It wants to see if we're going to stay where we need to stay.
Yes.
It pushes us, it tests us. The Lord Jesus tests us all the time. He comes to us and he says, are you going to take that step today? Are you going to jump back into the old ways? Or are you going to stay the new way, the new path?
Yes.
I really love the story, because the story behind who you are, DeeDee, is a transformation of what happened to you, and you falling down on in the church, shoes off. You knew you were not going anywhere because your shoes were. You can't run without your shoes, girl. So he knew. He was like, take those shoes off and let's work on you here.
Yes. Yes.
And I think your story was meant to happen, DeeDee, because you work with children and women now.
Yes.
That have gone through it because you lived it. So you're able to give them that experience to move on and push through.
Yes.
I do see the suitcase that is in the video, and the logo that you gave me was life. So I want to get into why that suitcase and what does the word life mean to you?
Yes. And too, Liz, before I go, and this tied into that, in that vision that I was having in that struggle in church, the Lord showed me. He says, he showed me in a car accident and I had died. And he said, if you don't get your life together today, give me your life today, this is what's going to happen. And that freaked me out and scared me. So it scared me, like they used to have that show, Scared Straight.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's what God is doing. He sends warnings, and he says, warning, he'll send a warning. Pride comes before destruction, and a haughty fall before. I might have messed that up. But anyway, yeah. But what he's saying is this: we have to know when the warnings come is for us to make a change. And if not, and he'll send different warnings, and he'll send some people get a lot, some people don't. I don't understand. I don't know. But my life suitcase, I brought this little suitcase from a garage sale. And it's an old Samsonite. So, this is probably 100 years old itself. And I saw this suitcase, and I don't know, I use it for a prop, like a little thing for at home to decoration. But when I started doing my skits, I started putting my little makeup and stuff in there. But life, there's no kind of life better than the life God can give you. Because we have to remember that what he does, he said he'll never leave us and he'll never forsake us. Now we'll leave him and we'll wander off and we'll try to do it on our own, and we'll say, okay, God, I'll be back. He said, okay, I know you will, because I got this. You didn't make you. I
Go to the candy store for a few minutes.
Exactly. He'll let us shop. He'll let us do anything we desire to do. But he knows we'll be back. So he's like, and he knows how long it's going to take. We don't. So the life that I give people is the word of God, in my experience. That's all I can give them. All I can give them is what I know. I can't give them anything I don't know. So it's from experience and it's from him. So that's what I do. That's the new life that I give.
Well, DeeDee, we can't share what we don't go through, right?
Exactly.
Because all we're doing is giving more damage. We're that little devil that's just saying a bunch of stuff that we haven't even gone through, and then we're like, oh no, believe me, when we haven't even lived it. So how can we make people believe us if we haven't experienced it? And this is why I have guests on that share their personal stories, because if you haven't lived it, you can't share it.
Right.
Because all you're doing is causing more damage. You're causing more breakage and division, because people are like, well, you didn't go through it, so how dare you come at me and tell me?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just really amazing how we go through so much challenges and obstacles in life, but we get to the other side, and then we awaken and we say, you know what? Thank you, Lord God. I'm not a religious person. I'm a spiritual person, but I know that the Holy Spirit lives within me and knows that he wants me to have this message out there today. For all the viewers and listeners out there, if you have any questions, just put them in the comments or send them to Miss Liz. But I want you guys to just look within yourselves and feel your cups, feel your stories, and be proud of your stories. The hard times, be proud of those hard times, because that hard time, you might be struggling right now, right at this moment. And in 5 years, you might be changing someone's life with your story. Don't give up.
That's right.
Your stories matter. And that's what DeeDee is here. So, DeeDee, I've never had a playwright on Tea Time. So, could you tell the listeners out there, what is a playwright?
A playwright is a person that they dibble and dabble in writing plays. And sometimes, you may not know the whole formality or the fundamentals and basics. So you just write it down, and then you formulate it, and you maybe have a professional to do it, to help you with it and to construct it right. But it's writing a story, a play, or a skit or an experience down, and then getting your name on there and making sure you go through the perfect channels to get it done.
So DeeDee, I'm gonna say yes. Hop off for 2 minutes, and I will take care of it while you go and do that for 2 minutes, and we'll be right back.
Be right back.
All the listeners and viewers out there, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. We also have DeeDee on Instagram. She's on TikTok. She's on YouTube. And check out, subscribe, follow, because you just never know what difference you actually make when you just give a quick subscribe, a quick follow, a quick comment on something that you like. You might be making yourself a new friend. You might be opening a door of opportunity, and you might change someone's life. You might even change your life by just going and clicking and liking and seeing a video that you might have needed to just get you to the next step, because sometimes that's what we need in life. We just need to like things and follow things. God sends us in different paths, and he makes you follow somebody, and you're like, why am I following this person? Why do I like this person? It's because God wants you to go in that direction for a reason. Only he knows why he puts us on these journeys, and we just got to start trusting him. So well, welcome back, DeeDee. And
Sometimes
you just got to skip out, and you just got to do something stuff, and then you got to just slide back in. And that's what my show is all about. It's home style. Like, if the doorbell rang, you got to go get the door. You go get the door.
Okay, thank you so much.
But DeeDee, I'm glad that you're back. So yeah, a playwright. So some of the plays that you've written and directed, how was that for you,
Liz? They have been life-changing. And it's always something that I've gone through. It's something that God has done for me. And I said, if God ain't in it, if you can't let me talk about God, then I don't want to be a part of it. So I'm just sorry. No, I'm not sorry. It's just the way it is. But
I want to get into that. I'll let you finish, but I want to get into that sorry thing.
Yeah. So it's like the inspiration came, sad to say, I was going through a divorce, 23 years marriage, this first play. And I had done things before. Like I said, when I was in high school, I started writing for this little newspaper at home in Gary. And I was so proud. And then I would do little things and just other little projects that I did. But the skits, the acting was always, because I always wanted, like I said, I was always silly. I always like to make people laugh. But I had done this skit right at the beginning of this divorce. And I was so bitter. I was angry. I was mad. I felt all this stuff. And I realized that I was just having a pity party. And the skit was like, I was by myself, and I said, let me call and invite some people, because I had my little joint, and I had a little fake bag of liquor. So I was going to invite them over. We was going to have a party. And nobody came. And everybody I called depression. She said she didn't want to come. I called angry. She said she didn't want to come. I called pride. He said he didn't have time. And so at the end, I got a phone call, and the call was from God. And it said, DeeDee, ain't nobody covered to this party but you. Pity parties is only about you and your emotions.
Yep.
And maybe the things that you've gone through. Maybe, I'm not denying that you've had abuse. I ain't denying that. I didn't have physical, I had mental and emotional abuse. And it wasn't all from him, it was from me too. I'm not blaming everything on him because, we all have, it's always a two-way street. So these things happened. And Liz, it was like, I didn't know what to do with it. So I put it in this skit. And then later, my friends kept saying, you need to do something with that. That's just too, you really, so, and then, like I said, he told me at the end, nobody's at this party but you. So pity parties is all about you. And you have to either give it to God or stay in that mess. So I decided to give it to God. And here I am.
Well, I like that you brought that up, pity parties, because it is just us, right? There's nobody that wants to deal with any of our pity parties. When we're having a hard day and we're just like hard on ourselves and everything, everybody's like, get over it. Come on,
Right.
get and snap out of it. Da, 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 da. But when we're in a pity party, we don't care about nobody. It's about us. It's about right in the moment. This is what I feel. This is what I'm going to do until we say, oh, okay, so I'm alone.
Right.
What do I do? Do I stay this way or do I change? And we all have pity parties. We all have our cry moments where we just like, it's all my fault, But I really like, DeeDee, that you had mentioned that it takes two people in a relationship. Whether we have good marriages or bad marriages, there's two people in that relationship. And we both have to take our accountability and responsibility because it wasn't two people, it wasn't one person that built the relationship, it was two. So two people have to take accountability, whether one takes it right away or one takes it 10 years down the road. Eventually, there is going to be some accountability on what has happened. Now, you were saying you were sorry. I want to get into this because people who have gone through abuse or any form of addictions, they say the word sorry a lot. It's our guard to say, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, excuse me. Because we're in that mind frame of we did something wrong. Something was our fault. So we apologize for it. But sorry is also a positive word because you caught yourself right away. And that's why I said I wanted to come back to the sorry because you caught yourself. You were like, no, I'm not sorry. Like, and that's where the realization comes in when you transform your life. When there's transformation, you recognize it and you can say, nope, we're not going down there again. That little guy over here, he's gone. Like, boom, gone. And I really love that you caught yourself, DeeDee, because for all the listeners and viewers out there, sometimes we have to catch ourselves.
Yes.
We have to be the role model and example for ourselves.
Right.
This morning show, we talked about mental health, and you also talked about trying to take your life. So there was some mental health issues as well. Do you struggle with mental health illnesses, DeeDee?
No, I don't now. I did before because I didn't know. I didn't have a purpose. I didn't know God. We grew up in a family and we went on, what was that, CME, Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter, And then my mom, she had a Jehovah's Witness background. And we would go to the Kingdom Hall. We had Bible study. But my dad, he didn't care for it. Number one, it didn't celebrate Christmas, And we went to his mom's and dad's church. It was a Methodist church. And so I would go and God is such a trip. I'm sorry. That is, God is, it would be these two little ladies in church. And one of them was short and kind of stocky, and the other one was tall and thin. And every time I would go to my grandma's church, these two little ladies, they would get happy. And they would just scream, and I would laugh, and they would feel the spirit. And I didn't know what they was doing because I was a little girl. So I was like, this is too much. I just love it. And my mom would look at me, and my dad was like, "I'm gonna get you," and I'm like, "Please don't whoop me." So I stopped real quick because I didn't understand. I was like, "I don't know why they screaming. Why are they screaming?" But they were they were crying for joy. And so when I understood how the spirit can come, and you'll lift your hands and you're like, I didn't mean to do that. Or you might begin to cry, and just like it happened to me. So I didn't know what that was until God had to do it to me. And so a lot of times, like I said, if it ain't about God, because I wouldn't be here, if it wasn't for that conversation that he and I had personal in the church, with the two little people trying to talk to me. And you see it, and then you realize, wow, how real he is. He is so real. Like the things that's going on today. He's already told you what it was gonna be. So
Right? And then you're wondering, "Oh, why am I meeting this person today?" It's like when you skipped out, I was like, sometimes we have to follow people. We have to reach out to a certain person because he knows why we're going there. We
exactly.
don't. We're like, why would I follow that person? Like, why would, like, I'm not into what they're doing and their content or whatever, but no, there's a reason for it. And
And
sometimes it's not always a good reason. Sometimes it's a message that we need to have in order to get to the next step.
that's
You
right.
know, we need a couple bad, broken steps to get to the good steps. If we
Yeah,
don't have them, then we're not going to get over to the other good side. We have to have that journey. We all have a story. We all have a journey,
that's
right?
right.
So, DeeDee, if I give you the letters TEA, what give me for your T today?
Okay, my T is number one, I'm thankful. The T is for being just thankful. I'm so thankful to God for everything that I went through. I used to say, I'm just thanking him for the good. No, I'm thanking him for the bad. Because if it wasn't for the bad, I'd like I said, I know I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, you look back and you say, wow. But the T is for thankful. The E is for encouragement. Encouragement. If you cannot encourage nobody, leave them alone. I mean,
I love it.
don't
Leave them alone.
leave them alone. And then you go somewhere, you go sit down somewhere,
Yeah,
And then
go sit, go over there and sit on that side.
like I said, go somewhere. Go sit down. Go sit down. Encouragement. And I'm learning that. I have my daughter here right now from Georgia, and that's what I just want to be her cheerleader. And sometimes we can help people from that suicide by just
Yeah.
encouraging them and tell them you look beautiful, or I love you, God loves you, something to encourage them. And also experience. If you got experience in an area that somebody's struggling with, that's your time. Like you said, don't hold back. Don't be afraid to share your ugly with people, because your ugly might be the ugly that they need to hear to help them, because they might have the same thing. So stop being afraid to be yourself. Just do it. And the A is for achieve. Achieve the greatness that God has given you. And it ain't gonna happen overnight. Everything is a process, which I did not like. I was like, oh, when I was going through the divorce, a friend of mine who's a pastor, he says, well, DeeDee, it's gonna be a process. And I'm like, I don't want to go through that. Just take away. I don't want to miss nobody. I don't want to like everybody. Just want it to just disappear. He said, sis, it ain't gonna happen. And I was like, come on, elder. And now I thanked my ex. I said, thank you for leaving,
We're going and sitting
I
somewhere.
I thanked he was probably like, girl, shut up. But because I had to go through that to find myself. Because,
Yeah.
I'm going to say this really quick. I know we don't have a lot. But Liz, when being a mother, for 23 years, I was somebody's mom. For 23 years, I was somebody's wife. For 23 years, I was somebody's church this, or it was all, but I forgot who I was. And I lost me. And a lot of women out there, you losing you because you're so consumed with other people. And it's God first, you, your husband, then your family, then the other people. But if you don't take him first, you lost in the beginning. So I can't tell you nothing else.
Right?
So
It's a temple, right? Understanding the temple. If you don't understand the temple, then you're going to struggle. You're going to be, but you know what? Sometimes we have to tell those ex-husbands, just go sit somewhere else because you ain't encouraging me anymore. And thank you for coming, but no, thank you for it, and move along. But
yes.
I find that some of us have to get married in order to have that story, to show people that marriage is not happiness. Happiness is within yourself. If you lose yourself, how can you make a marriage happy? How can you make anything happy? How can you make your children happy if you're not happy? Right? And this is where we have to do that transformation. We have to take that journey. We have to have that pity party. We have to throw it and say, you know what? I hate my life right now. I'm not encouraging anybody, so I'm going to take a time out. I'm going to sit here until I figure it out, you know. And then we move on and we carry on, and that. And DeeDee, I'm really glad that I got to meet you because, you
Hmm.
know, until you meet somebody, you don't actually understand a person. You don't understand their story. Sometimes you get a text message or you get an email and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's nice. But you know what I mean? Until you meet the person, you actually connect with the person and join together, you sometimes are missing a great opportunity. You are missing a great time to connect and network with each other. And DeeDee, you're blowing me away. I love your character. I love your attitude because you're like a straightforward, blunt girl. That's the way I like it. I like people that are
That's
just
it.
like, you know what? You're not
Don't,
encouraging me. Go and take a seat. Like, get over there.
I don't need that. I didn't have that already. Just go sit down. Go somewhere.
So, DeeDee, I want to get into a couple more questions and then we're going to wrap it up because we are getting close to it. But I asked you your favorite color and you gave me the color red. So why red?
You know, I liked it because it was bright. You could be seen. I've always wanted to be seen. I love attention. And I can't say what I want to say, but on your show, but I used to be an
Beep
attention,
beep.
attention whore. I love I liked it because I felt like my flaws, everybody saw them, so I would try to do away with that. But I love the color red, and it just brought boldness and then now I like it because it's the blood of Jesus. It's the color, you put the red blood on, but he turns you white as snow, and like that's his chemical laboratory. So that red, that's my color.
I love it. And I like the little. If anybody wants to know what that is, and you have to reach out to DeeDee.
I'll share it with you.
And I asked you for one word to describe yourself as a person, and you gave me jovial.
Jovial. That means happy, jolly. I love being happy, but you did mention, it's not up to anybody to make you happy because that ain't the word. That is not nothing to do with it. Covenant is marriage. And also happy is like you said, it's a state of being. Because you can be happy now and then later on, an hour later, you sad about something. So it's not about happy, but it's about joy. And jovial makes people want to hear what you have to say. And
Makes you want
it
to
comes with
dance.
encouraging. Yeah, it's like, hey,
I kept coming for you.
I went to a job, it was a job interview. And they says, what are people going to see? I said, I like to have fun. And my girlfriend says, Dee, you don't go to work to have fun. I was like, oh, maybe that's why they didn't call me back.
Well, it's like going to church, right? You feel the music and you want to get into it, right? You feel the
Yeah,
spirit of it. Life is so heavy and we go through so
yeah.
many heavy things. We got to have some fun.
I gonna
You
laugh every day. I have to every day.
Yeah. It's truly like if we don't laugh at the hard times, what are we really laughing at, right?
Exactly.
You know, I always tell everybody when things get too heavy for me, I start to giggle because I get scared. And then I'm just like, I'm just going to giggle it off, because if I giggle it off, it might get lighter. It might just go away.
Right.
And then I'm just like this crazy fruitcake that's just laughing and giggling to myself. And then the moment is past and everybody's just trying to figure me out. Well, those 3 minutes of me laughing took the moment away. So,
Right.
sometimes we just got to do that. So I want to get into, before we wrap up, you have a second husband, correct?
Yes.
So how did you miss Mr. Prince Charming at a picnic reunion?
Reggie and I, you say I have to mess with my hair.
He was a Prince Charming.
I love that guy. Oh my God. We used to date in high school for a little bit. And he was always a gentleman. To me, he was a gentleman. And so I'm at the picnic and, I'm going through the divorce, just ended my divorce rather. So I'm a little angry. So I had started back drinking and I was a little tipsy at the picnic and I was ready to go. And who walks in the picnic? Had muscles, cut off shirt. And he asked my brother, my brother was really close. I'm gonna have to hurry up. They were really close and they played football together. So he'd ask my brother, he said, "Hey man, where's your sister? How you doing?" He said, "There she is." And I couldn't see because the sun, and then I was a little tipsy, like I said. And he hadn't delivered me all the way yet. So I was like, who is that? And so here he comes, and he was bow-legged, and he walked up in all these muscles and his bald head shining. And I was like, oh my God. And he hugged me, and it was like, oh Lord. And then he said something to me, Liz. He says, if I had known then what I know now. No, first he said, please forgive me if I hurt you in the past. I'm sorry. If I had known then what I know now, we'd be together. We'd have been together. And I was like,
That big ugly
cry. And we've been together ever since. So that's been 12, it'll be 12 years next year.
But again, DeeDee, it goes back to the travel and the journey, right? If you guys would have got together then, would you be together today?
No, sir.
And that's why it happened the way it did. These are the reasons why people come into our lives and then boom, they disappear, and then they come back and they're like, you know what? I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to be sorry about. It was God's timing. It wasn't right at that time. These things had to happen in order to, process and all that. So DeeDee, any final messages
that
you and connected you?
I didn't. Can you repeat that? Because you froze up a little bit.
Oh, did I? So what final message do you have for everybody, and how can people reach you and all that? I'll get you to say them out loud for the audio people, because not everybody gets to see the video. The audio people, you guys don't get the film. I'm sorry. Maybe in 10 years from now, we'll do the video through audio somehow with the AI. But until then, you're getting the audio.
All right. Well, you can reach me at, the reason I'm here is because, it's, like I said, Eve, I believe, Adam and Eve, that was Adam and Eve. That's all I know that was in the garden. All this other stuff, I don't have a comment, or that's not my thing. But I chose Eve at this point because Eve got picked on a lot. Everybody talked about Eve. And so I was like, nobody's in her defense. So I was like, I'm going to stand up for Eve. So I do what they call the ghetto Eve part, So, because everybody talked about Eve. So I come in there for her defense. I'm like, y'all been talking about me for all my life. All y'all life. Y'all don't. That's why you got something bad to say. If it wasn't for Eve. But if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't even be here. Okay. So, so I'm the type, I want you to express God's word in a form that anybody can receive it. Anybody can understand. Make it as plain for little kids to understand. I got little kids at church and I said, is that Eve? So I want people to know that God's word is true, and it don't have to be sad and hell and fire all the time, brimstone, but it's a chuckle, because It's who we are. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. We're not perfect in this. We'll never be perfect in our flesh. We'll be perfect in God's eyes, but never in our flesh. So to all of you, know that as long as you're living, God is not through with you. And you got a chance today to get it right. And that is always, God, I messed up. I'm wrong. I did this. Tell God about it. If you don't tell anybody, but if it's somebody that you really need to go to and tell them that you're sorry, do it. It's not that hard. And it'll make you, and it's not for them, it's for you. And it's not what you feel, but it's what your heart is telling you to do. You know, a lot of people they're sick now. Some of them are sick, some of them have died because of unforgiveness. And that is so detrimental to our soul and our spirit and our life. So get rid of it and go sit down.
Right? You ain't encouraging anymore. Go over to the other side. There's a chair over there. We promise.
There's a chair waiting for you.
Right? So, DeeDee, if they would like to reach out to you, what is the best platform to catch you on?
Well, I love church. So you can catch me at Miss D's Drama. I'm on Instagram under Miss D's Drama. I am on TikTok, D Johnson Presents. I am on Facebook under DeeDee Banks Johnson. And I wrote my first play on YouTube, and it's under Miss D's Productions / Pity Party. And I'm Patty. Patty was a crackhead, so go see Patty. Patty is wigged out. Yes.
Hey, and that's what we need. We need we need people that are just open and honest and straightforward. We all have stories. We all have gone through things. Stop being ashamed. Like DeeDee says, stop being ashamed. Share your ugly. We need ugly stories out there so that we can make a difference together. And that's why we do Tea Time, is we get those ugly stories out there and we have some fun. We have some laughs. We get a little deep.
God
and
shows the beauty of it. So all of it ain't ugly.
Right? So, DeeDee, I really want to thank you for joining me. And I really want to thank Constance Woolard for introducing me to you. Big shout out to Constance. She was also a Tea Time guest. So you can check out Constance Tea Time also on the YouTube channel. Yes. Constance was on in season 3 and 4. So you want to check that out. Yes. And for this Tea Time, for all the listeners and viewers out there, if you're watching a replay, please push #replay where you're tuning in from. And if you feel that this Tea Time resonates with you, share it with someone. It only takes one person. And that one person goes to the next person and the next person. And that's how we spill and the flow of tea in this house, is we make a difference by sharing stories, by sharing the guests. Engage with them. All of their information is always in the description box. Check that out. If you can't reach them, you can always reach me and I will connect you. If you want them as speakers, if you want them as a guest on your podcast, I share my guests. They're not all mine. I don't keep them in a cookie jar. I share them. So I'm more than happy to give you their contact information. And if they would like to align with you, that is up to them. I leave it for them. So I don't play the little devil and the little angel. I put them together and they decide. They decide where they're going. If they take their shoes off and stay, or if they're not taking their shoes off, right? So DeeDee, I really want to thank you. I want to thank the listening audience and the participants who have sent questions during it. During the conversation, many of the questions got answered. And that's what I like. I like when we have a flow of conversation, when the questions are coming in and they're getting answered through our conversation. Sometimes we just got to keep the conversation going, because the answers will come within. So again, I want to thank everybody. I will be back tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the last Tea Time of this Thursday. And then I'll be back next Thursday with 3 more guests, 3 new TEAs. If you'd like to check out who's coming on in November, check out Miss Liz's website, check out the Facebook page. All of that stuff is there, RSVP, and you will get them all. Until then, I will see everybody at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the last Tea Time of November 2nd.